Welcome back to the Just Jake podcast. I'm Jake Gutierrez, and I'm here with two very special souls that I'd love to introduce to the audience, doing great work here in the community of Kansas City and around the world, obviously. Justin and Sarah McCarthy.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you, Jake. It's great to be here. I'm Justin McCarthy, and this is my lovely fiance,
Hi,
Sarah.
I'm Sarah. Nice to meet you.
And Jake has been kind enough to have us on to talk about our wellness center, Harmonic Health Club.
Yeah.
And just a little bit about myself. I grew up in Manhattan, Kansas. Moved to Kansas City about 15 years ago, so it's home now. Did a few things in between. Spent some time in Colorado, some time in Florida before realizing that Kansas City really is an amazing city. And once I met Sarah, we just decided we wanted to really bring something special to this community, and so we decided to open Harmonic Health Club, which has been quite an adventure in itself.
For sure.
But go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Sarah, and I would say my background mostly has been in mental health. I've been a mental health therapist for over 20 years in many different capacities. Throughout that course of that, I've also been trained in yoga and also just the world, I guess. I've lived in lots of places, London, Florida, Kansas. I grew up mostly in Omaha, Nebraska. My dad was Civil Service Air Force, so we traveled around a lot when I was a kid. A little bit about me with that. Then I meet Justin, Q Justin, and my life completely changed.
So the night we met, I started talking about functional medicine because it's a beautiful filter, and she was actually interested. So my
Hook, line, and sinker.
Not only
right.
interested, I was like,
let's just get right down to this. Can you tell me about phase 1 and phase 2 and the liver for detoxification process? She actually could, and she kind of lit up a little bit, and I was like, okay, wow, this is different.
Yeah.
Since night number 1 of meeting, we have not been apart since, and so with her mental health background, my functional integrative medicine consulting, health coaching, and also Reiki and sound work as well, we really have quite a bit to offer for folks that are looking for any aspect of wellness in body, mind, spirit, and we're having a lot of fun over there.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys have a special union. It's fun to be around. Your energy is awesome, and I got a chance to check out the studio, beautiful space over in Shawnee, and I definitely, once I had that experience, I wanted to share it with people who resonate with this podcast and people who are just looking to grow their wellness in all 3 aspects. Right, I talk about it all the time. That I'm a 3-part entity. I'm a mind, I'm a soul, and I'm a body. Yeah. And the balance of contributing to the wellness of those 3 entities is that's life, right?
Yeah.
Balancing those 3, because we know that people who are physically 100% of their wellness, and then their mental and their health, their mental health is down. Like there's a balance to balance it all, and that's kind of life experiences. So getting into Harmonic Health Club, and that's harmonichealthclub.com, and we'll have all that in the show notes, so you can check that out. My experience was outstanding in terms of I truly believe in I went in with a complete open mind, but the sound is such a healing element, right? And then you combine it with what you're doing there with the EES, right. The scalar waves. Why don't you kind of just describe what that does, and even before you even get into that, kind of talk about your journey and how you found EES and just kind of how that drew you in, and so to the point where you're like, this is what I want to be about.
Yeah.
Sure.
Great
Well,
question.
So that conversation began when we were really just batting around kind of what we just talked about, how
Bring it all together.
Yeah, we have separate but different but similar backgrounds that really interweave in the way you just described, and as we got to discussing that and just kind of imagining and discussing visions of once upon a time, we realized that, gosh, we could have a center of our own, and the more that we talked about that, we thought, our experience will speak for itself, but what could we do to really give it some pizzazz and stand out? Well, about that time, Jason Shirka with the Unified Network had kind of begun doing his thing. This was in the post-COVID aftermath, where there was a lot of confusion as well as a lot of waking up, and in kind of following him and resonating with a lot of his messages, I remember him describing his meeting with Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, and how the two of them had agreed on an initiative to help make the energy enhancement systems and the technology available not only coast to coast, but global. Yeah. And they wanted to do it, quickly and, get as many centers as open as possible, with the reason being that what they had seen from the results, it's too good to keep it a secret. Yeah. So they went big. And, as we were, kind of discussing what that might be like, it did seem like it made a lot of sense. The research is there, the testimonials are there. It's a big new thing, and they're also mission based, which that mattered to both of us.
Yes.
They stand for something, and ultimately, the short way to say that is humanitarian causes, because there's
Sure.
plenty of those out there.
Sure.
So all of those things really resonated, and so that I think it was October. I was actually in a corporate meeting in Orlando, my absolute least
city.
favorite place in the world. And I'm, kind of trying to deal with the Orlando scene, and it's probably an afternoon of a long day, and all of a sudden the day is here. Like, if you want to put your name in the hat to open a center, it's time to do it. Mm-hmm. And actually, I think it may have been going for a little while, but something kind of said that to me that day. I called Sarah immediately. We talked about it, and we discussed it, leading up to that. But it was a hard yes for both of us. Yeah. And at least to give it a shot, right? To go for it. And so we filled out the application, put our name in the hat, and we're selected.
So that's a pretty drastic decision to make. Being obviously you were working for a company, you're at a corporate, retreat or whatever, meetings.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And then you're like,
well, that's a great point. At the time we were looking at about a 6 to 9 month wait time. Yeah. Just for all of it to go through, for them to build the system, to get it delivered and installed. So we still had plenty of time. Now, life started happening, and that did shift a little bit along the way, but it was really it was really a great way to say, you think you're going to do this thing over here while we get things ready to go, but as good fortune worked out, we actually just decided to go all in with that, and it was by far the best decision. It allowed us to really unite on defining what our center would look like, because
it's different than other centers.
It didn't come with a manual or anything, or a handbook.
We're writing one, though. I think we can kind of create. We can create one. Yeah.
I think we should. It's called the Galactic Handbook for Energy Healing. So it'll be out probably by Christmas, I think. Yeah. Anyhow, so we opened August 1st of last year, and we kind of wondered what's this going to be like? How long is it going to take us before we realize this thing? When do we get to see the good stuff? And I think it was probably about day number 3 or 4.
Very quickly, yeah.
Yeah, I remember coming in, and we were probably multitasking all day long, big time. And so when I arrived, the guests were already there, and the gentleman was in a lot of pain. And he actually wasn't really comfortable in the seats, and needed to kind of we've got a lot of different seating options, and so we've actually made him a comfortable place on the floor where he could get in kind of a fetal position. And it was at that time, kind of this moment of truth, because the sound aspect. I have some musical experience. I played in the orchestra in high school, sang for 1 year in college, and have been to a lot of really great shows. Sarah has as well,
Yes.
in terms of going to she's enjoyed music her whole life. But as far as, that's more of, musical performance rather than therapeutic.
Sure.
And, had I known that the therapeutic sound was a way to go, I maybe would have discovered that much sooner. Instead, I had to save my pennies and dimes and get a couple gongs and handpan and just kind of teach myself and then her. So doing that part of it, we're about 11 months, and have really grown a lot in that time, and learned not only how to execute a very enjoyable and also therapeutically efficacious sound experience, but combining that with the potency of the E system. I mean, no one's experienced this before.
Right.
Everybody thinks they know what it is, but they don't, because we're the only one in like a 2-hour radius.
Sure.
So come on in and see it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and so you're coming up on a year.
Yeah.
And as you kind of reflect on the last year of running this center, like, what have been some of the biggest challenges of getting this off the ground, and things that had come up that you just weren't really expecting? And then add on to that being that, I believe in, look, first off, this is a disclaimer. This is not medical advice, right? This isn't medical advice.
Not making any claims.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I believe within my own structure of my own healing, whether it be from emotional healing or physical healing, reversing type 2 diabetes, or significant amount of weight loss through that journey, there was healing that happened that, like we heal ourselves.
Correct.
Right. And it's like, doctors have their place. And if I have a compound fracture and the bone is sticking out of my leg, I need that doctor.
Yeah, the gong might not fix that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But even when the doctor puts the bone back in my leg and puts a cast on it and sews me back up, what actually heals that bone is my body, right? My own, I believe in a higher power. I call that power God. And just because I haven't found a shorter word, and it's a God individual to me, but my body combined with that power is what heals that leg.
Yes.
Right. But the doctor is necessary. Modern medicine has its place, but with that structure, I'm kind of going off topic and within the question, but what's this last year been like? And being from somebody who has a mental health background, and then moving into my experience, I do voluntary work for hospice, and hospice offers a lot of, and especially now they're offering a lot more than just because there's people who are coming to the end of their existence in this body, right? And they want to be coherent. They don't want to be all drugged up. Right. Some people do, and that's okay too. But they're offering, whether it be aromatherapy, and where I'm pushing this into is like, audio. They're doing sound healing. And they're doing it comforts, and there's comfort that's it's proven. Yeah. There's data that supports that. I believe that we have 6 senses. We have 5 that we talk about, right? And those senses can be therapeutically induced to help ourselves heal. So going back to a long-winded question.
Yeah, I love that you volunteer for hospice.
Yeah, I mean, it's been.
I have a lot of my background. Originally, I worked as a CNA. That's how I put myself through college, my undergrad, and I worked in a nursing home. And it was, long-term care. So these were residents in the nursing home that didn't have a lot of family. They were kind of alone, kind of put there to transition.
Right.
And I really had the experience of being with many of those patients that, as they transitioned, I would hold their hand, and there wouldn't be anybody there because they would just be alone. And to feel that energy, like, the respiration's kind of going lower and lower, and holding their hand and not being afraid of that energy or that transition as they were then gone, was really inspiring for me about living. How do we live our lives? How do we engage in life? How does life engage with us? My mom was also a hospice nurse as well, and she started a business called Transitions Matter. And so this has been something that's been important even just as mother-daughter, as we've talked about things. So as we have worked at Harmonic Health Club, watching people transition, whether it be in a hospice or just in their wellness, learning how to transition from where you are now to where you're going to go, even holding their hand as their life gets better.
Yeah.
And just watching that, and people, Justin and I talk about this a lot, like even after just 1 2-hour session, the light that's in people that gets turned on versus sometimes hospice where you kind of watch the light go,
Right.
Has been incredible. We've often even said, like, we're almost like a hospice house for people that are wanting their light on and to come back on. You've often talked about, what has been your experience, personally? And I think that's a really great question for people that are in the field as much as we are. And we call it in the field. People are like, what do you mean in the field? We're like, we're in the energy field. We're not like out in the field. We're like in it.
In the field.
Yeah, baby.
And if you were finished, I wanted to just share one thing about you've had a lot of experience working in that capacity.
Oh, yeah.
Where I have not.
Yeah, Justin hasn't.
And so, some of what I've seen with, very, very fresh eyes, I would describe it as we know for certain that, and several names would come to mind right away, that as they were, approaching the time for transition, where they wanted to be hanging out was at the club.
Was with us, yeah.
They loved it.
Yeah.
It was probably something that they could look forward to, which would, quite likely, help them manage some pain or maybe some fearful thoughts, whatever they might have been dealing with. They got to, turn that back for a while and
have
enjoy.
some fun. Yeah.
And one woman that struggled to get out of her car, she needed help. She was using a walker. As we we're winding the session down and kind of getting a little noisy with the instruments, she literally started dancing. She stood up.
That was awesome.
And this was one of the first things that we saw, which began to help us realize we're working with something very special here. And there are some other examples of that, but to be able to kind of be on that short list of where people want to go, if nobody really knows exactly, but body's probably telling them that the clock's ticking here, so go have some fun. And when they select us, and we know that is one of many ways that makes us feel we're doing something very, very valuable for our community members.
Much better than a long-term nursing care home.
Sure. No, absolutely. A lot of my work is done. They have a beautiful Kansas City Hospice has a hospice house, but a lot of the work I do is done in individual nursing homes and going to different places around the Johnson County area, mostly. Some Kansas City, Missouri, but this is. I had no idea, right? Your background in hospice, and it's just like these are conversations that aren't had,
right? Because
in our society, the thought of death is a scary one, and we don't talk about it, and it's feared. And Ram Dass, that was my introduction to sitting with people in transition, because I sat with both my parents, right, through their transition. I was still sick, but I had the ability to be there, and it's not for everybody, and a lot of people don't have the capacity to hold space for somebody who's going through that, and it's like God gave me a unique ability to look past the illness, and I think that's kind of what from my experience at Harmonic Health Club is that no matter what you're walking in with, like you are beyond that, like your illness doesn't define who you are. Right? Because there's a whole nother world that we can open up for you.
Yes.
And it's like that's kind of, whether you talk about, the light turning back on for people or, even people going through transition, I would sit with people and, my experience, like, I don't believe anything in this world is completely altruistic, right? Because people say, oh, wow, you sit with people who are transitioning. You're like, how in the hell do you do that? Right? And it's like, look, you don't understand how much I get from it.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
you don't
Well
I'm not doing this
Right.
to look like I'm a really good person. Like, I like to think I'm the best person I can be, but look, I'm still human. Like, story after story of patient I sit with, it's like, you don't understand what they're giving me.
Right. Sure.
Like, you don't know what they're adding to my life. Like, and I go back to saying, like, it's not for everybody and not everybody. But I sit with people and it's like, you're dying of cancer.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, why can't any of my family see that? Because they'll come in and I'll be sitting there with them and they'll be like, Dad, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay, when they know it's not going to be okay.
Exactly.
But it's like and we're not trained in it. And it's like they're doing family. And I was that same way.
Yeah.
Like, we don't understand the process of dying because, we hide it. Like you said, we put people in nursing homes and we don't want to see it.
We don't want to see it.
Right. And it's like, I don't want to go too far out, but it's like, why is that? Is because our culture, our society, it worships youth.
Absolutely.
Right? It worships youth. You turn on the TV and then, like, any depiction of the elderly in a TV show or in a movie, it's like, oh, crazy old grandpa over there. Right? When how we were, as a civilization, thousands of years ago, is that the elders raised the youth because they had the capacity, the wisdom, the patience, the tolerance to add to the youth and raise them right and add these skills and teach. You can, and now, like, you're lucky if you have a mom and a dad or a 2-parent home, and it's a single parent or it's going back and forth, and it's like, these people are trying to work, and it's like, it's all been designed that way. And so it's no wonder that, like, we don't want to look at it. So we put it somewhere else. And it's like, it's nobody's fault, right? But that's just the reality of, like, a life without death is only half lived, and I went and I spent a week it was a workshop with a man named Frank Ostaseski, who wrote a book called The 5 Invitations. And he opened up the very first Buddhist hospice in this country up in San Francisco. And it was called the Zen Buddhist Hospice Project. And so I got to spend a week with, all aspects. You had to be involved in whether it be doctors, nurses, or a hospice arena. Sure. And it was a silent retreat outside of the workshops that we did. And it just opened my eyes so much and I met Frank and I had just, like, maybe 4 or 5 months started volunteering for hospice, and I met him at a Ram Dass retreat out in Maui.
Beautiful.
And Frank was like, I was just kind of sharing him, like, hey, because this was a retreat that they had out in Maui it had some of the foremost authorities in transitioning. I mean, that's what it was really about. And so just, how God puts me in different places, I've gotten to learn about that. And I can't tell you, like, I don't fear death, and it's not something to be feared. Now, I don't want to die today. Don't get me wrong.
Well, that's good.
Don't get me wrong.
You got a lot of life left in you.
It's something that I actually look forward to.
Yeah.
Like, I look forward to that part of my life. But it's like, it's not, and the way I look at it is that, I didn't decide to be here right now. Something put me here. And that same thing will take me away from here. Right? Now, what happened before, I'm not exactly sure. And what happens after, if I told you, I'd be lying to you, and I don't think anybody really knows, right? So it's like I'm given this segment in between that, right? And it's like, I think that, meeting you guys and spending an afternoon with you guys, like, the universe brought us together to have these conversations.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The resonance with these kinds of conversations, used to maybe happen in the local, neighborhood cafe or things like that, where people get together and be able to, be in the same room and talk. And as we know now, it doesn't really work that way. Everybody's kind of keeping to themselves. And
fragmented.
There's so much division out there that, being able to simply have an intelligent conversation can sometimes be challenging if people don't all agree, and that's unfortunate because There's so many different things that could be discussed. Like we're talking about now. My thought on that is that one of the reasons why kind of we're hiding death away, is because unfortunately as our bodies age and begin to kind of lose control, it's difficult for some to be, and it's there are the angels that are there to actually step in and support that, but that's not for everybody. Now, what if we could say, that's going to change. We're actually going to improve the quality of life by creating more mobility, more intellectual capacity, and this is a process because they didn't get to that point right overnight. It wouldn't surprise me if someday, as soon as they can do it, I'll bet you there will be EE systems in every nursing home.
Absolutely.
Because eventually everyone will realize that scalar and biophotonic waves create the ideal environment for cellular health. Our cells just simply work best when they're in that environment. The way that that fifth dimensional waves perform is different than light and sound, and our cells really like it. And so all of the toxins and things that don't belong, as our cells push that out and our body excretes it, it's a game changer. So
it does enhance your energy.
Yeah. So let's say that like you were talking about before. I've worked with a number of doctors that would confidently tell you that we will reverse type 2 diabetes. Very high success rate. Now, from my experience with that, 26 weeks was kind of what they would look at as a framework, with that they knew that they could get some good results in that time. Some people could maybe achieve that faster, but most of the research out there is on 13-week increments. So it kind of makes sense because our body gets the cellular turnover it needs to do what it needs to do. This, I think, can shortcut that considerably. And I would love for people to ponder that, because if they were looking at a 13-week program, that we'll get there by October 1st, give or take, but what if we could get there by the home opener? What if we could just come and sit and receive some beautiful frequencies that their cells really respond to? That's one thing that I've experienced. I feel like my body composition right now is as good as it's ever been.
Sure.
And I don't remember the last time I was.
You're looking damn good.
No,
She's saying that because she loves me.
I can echo that sentiment because I feel better at 44 than I did at 34.
Hey, same.
Now, granted, I was a super at 34. I just November of 14.
Sure.
Was when I started getting sober and making changes.
Yeah.
So I had lived a pretty unhealthy 15 years into that, from early 20s to 34. So I don't know if I'm a great comparison, but my goal is to feel better at 54 than I do right now.
Stick with us, man. We will get you there. I promise.
Well, let's get into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the EES and just kind of how it works and what it looks like and what the I guess I really shake to use this word, but the science behind it, or what?
Sure.
The waves that you're talking about, the scalar waves, and the vibrations of the sound and whatnot.
Do you want to describe the system, or you want?
Well, the best way I can describe it is like this. The scalar waves sound like angelic
angels
realms.
come in and sing a song. Everyone smiles,
Yes.
and
But
then we
this-
drift
yeah.
off into dreamland and go for a ride in the Merkabah.
Well, of course. I mean, who doesn't understand all of that? So the science behind it is pretty fascinating. It is Tesla technology.
Awesome.
When people kind of drive around, you see like the Tesla cars, and it's all of those types of high level of understanding different types of technology. So when you walk into the field, we are utilizing some of the same.
Awesome.
The exact same.
Right.
When we say biophytonic, it's like, well, okay, what does that mean? So there's also light. So when you walk in, we have an 8-unit system that is perfectly calibrated, on each north, east, west, south parts of our center. And they also have light and movement. That's the biophotonic, and it all comes together to create a toroidal field of energy. Well, what the heck does that mean? You'll have to come in and find out.
Right.
But there is like the Tesla technology is really where it's at.
Right. And we don't need to get down in that hole, but
I would love to, but that could be another podcast.
I mean, for sure, because all this technology was put away and discarded, for many reasons. But all of Tesla's work was confiscated by the government.
Correct.
Right. Because what it is free energy.
It's free.
It's free energy. So absolutely, we'll have to sit down for another podcast and get into Tesla.
Love that.
Absolutely.
I was very fortunate. So I went to Western Illinois University, and I had a professor there, Professor Anderson, who was just probably the only professor I actually remember, right? Because I was in broadcasting classes, and so he's like, "All right, I'm going to teach you what this book says, and I'm going to teach you what really happened." And then so he talks about Westinghouse and Edison.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, they stole all Tesla.
They took it from him.
And so he's like,
want to monetize
you're not going to be tested over this, but you should have the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is what the books say, and this is what you're going to be tested on, but this is what really happened.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And like, as a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, I'm like, this guy's cool. And guess what? Like, what he was saying is like, this makes sense. Like, I didn't know how it made sense, but it's like, I believe this guy.
Right.
Like, my sixth sense says this guy's telling me the truth. Mm-hmm. And then when we read this, it's like, this is just out of a book, and I don't, this doesn't resonate with me. And I didn't really digest it properly until, I started, really becoming awake to what was going on. It's like, oh yeah, he was talking about this 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. So, we don't need to get down there, but Tesla technology. So, do some research and learn what happened, because that stuff is out there to find. And what happened in the Tesla towers and being in Colorado Springs and San Francisco and all that. Like, there is free energy out there. And this is the technology that's reawakening, right? You said, how do you describe it? Ancient technology from the future?
Yes, exactly. Welcome to the ancient future.
Right, right. And I think that's just a beautiful way to say it, because this stuff has all been known
for a very long time.
And look, our country, our world runs on monetary gain, right? And so they didn't have the proper way to market this and gain money from it, so it went away. And what we have now is how, you pay the energy company. So look, I'm bring us back and going into the EES and just the waves, and so it's using an energy field to heighten your cells in an electric charge to really make them healthy, right? To discard what's not good for the cells, and so the cells have an environment to, so to speak, recharge themselves.
Our bodies are always trying to look for that perfect environment, right? Our bodies always want homeostasis. It always wants to be healthy. And we have an environment everywhere that is very unhealthy.
Right.
Be that just, waves in, the grocery store, if you will.
EMFs.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Chemicals.
So a lot of our
5G.
environment, exactly. If you are not just perfectly out in nature without all that around, you're most likely in an unhealthy, toxic environment, just because of our technology that we have now.
Right.
It equals free radicals.
Exactly.
That's going to do damage to our organs, to our skin, and it's downhill from there.
Not to mention all the
And it's
sounds
fun.
that you hear. If I could have one wish right now, it would be if we could change like all the police sirens, fire sirens to just a different frequency, right?
Yeah.
Because we
How
are
about the
hearing
lawnmowers and blowers?
Oh, the lawn equipment. Even just the sounds that you hear everywhere can also be, kind of like this, and your body is often having a fear response.
Sure, and even music has been changed
Music
to
has been
440
changed.
hertz,
Can't even
right?
listen to the radio anymore. Yes,
Right, like 440 hertz, and the natural sound is 432, right?
Exactly.
And-
Yes. Mm-hmm. 432 also connected with like Tesla and the pyramids,
Right.
and that goes way back into just
And
432 is connected to even the Earth frequency.
Look, none of that's done by accident, right?
No.
Like there's a system that is set up in especially in this country more than any that we don't really want you healthy.
Right.
Right? There's a pill for that.
Absolutely.
And so it's like if you can open your eyes to what's going on and find, I'm a big believer in breath work and ice plunges and saunas and I got my first experience, with the EES. It's like I'm looking for I don't like to call them biohacks, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm not hacking anything. Right. I'm restoring myself to
You're remembering.
Right. I'm homeostasis where I should be. So I don't need to hack anything. I just need to go back to, natural homeostasis.
Yes.
That's exactly right. And what a beautiful way to combat all of those other things we were just talking about that, that's kind of out of our hands.
Right. You're not going to get rid of
that
it.
battle.
However, they're going to be there. Yeah.
What we can, we've always been able to take control of our own health and wellness. And I've thought for a long time that, it's time for people to realize that if they're not going to take responsibility for their own at some level, then it's going to be tough. Because what we knew to be true before, but I've gotten an entirely new perspective on, is that there are a lot of healthcare situations out there. They do not want you to be healthy. I mean, the things that are being told to folks that are coming in and sharing sound absolutely backwards.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure they're doing the best that they can. But there's a better way, And that's what's beautiful about this, is to be able to come in and get kind of in 2 hours, give your cells that electrical charge that each one of them has. If we can take that up to about 70 to 90 millivolts, that's going to be a happy, healthy person. No chronic disease, because it can't live there. Now, when people run into problems, when they get down, below 25, down around 20, that's when, you start getting things that are, a little more difficult to take care of. But from a maintenance standpoint, if people were to do this or something like this, just as in the same way that you might change the oil on your car, I think that it'd be a little bit different for each person. But the way that would that keeping their millivolts high, basically, the one way to look at that would be if you were, let's say, you went to a social gathering of some type, and there. Something was going around. People were coughing, sneezing, and you're walking out of there. You're like, oh my gosh, I've probably been exposed to something. Well, maybe. We're exposed to things every day, everywhere. But our body is equipped to take care of that, as long as we're taking care of it. So, if we keep our millivolts high, and that's not the only thing, but that will do a wonderful job at keeping everything else leaning towards homeostasis, healing injuries or resolving inflammation. The list goes on. And so to be able to, for people, no matter where they're at, from the, hey, this is, kind of one of the last gatherings we might have, and being able to, just, I don't know, perhaps facilitate them speaking, to the other side. The veil's pretty thin in there sometimes.
Yeah, it really is.
All the way up to the people who are uber healthy and know that, as we move into the new earth, the benefits from our cells being exposed to these waves is, there's a lot of good reasons for that, including just feeling better in your body, having more energy.
Yeah, it's a supplement, so to speak, and for me, it's like, I have thousands of hours at this point in time within meditation. So it's like, you guys designed an awesome space for me, but somebody who doesn't have that experience, I'm sure you could tailor something for them. Like, you meet people at where they're at.
Absolutely. That's essential.
Yeah. And so, that, like, I've felt since Monday, I've felt great.
Yay!
Actually,
what's been your experience since the 2-hour session?
A lot more energy.
Okay.
My sleep has been better.
Oh, I'm so glad that you mentioned sleep. We hear that a ton.
My sleep has been
good.
So my sleep has been, it's been longer and it's been deeper. I have, for good, bad, or indifferent, I have this that measures, that's a plus or minus where you want to wear one of those, I've had, but I like to, I like to know where I'm at, and it tracks my sleep, and my sleep has been deeper. I've been in REM sleep more. I've been in deep sleep more for significantly maybe 30 to 45 minutes the past 2 nights more, being whether I'm usually around 45 minutes to an hour of REM, I was like at, I think, an hour and 45 minutes last night of REM sleep.
Excellent.
Wonderful.
That's for me, and like, where like sleep is such a big necessity for our bodies to regenerate themselves,
100%.
you know? And
yes.
so for me, it's like I've felt better during my 2 runs the last 2 days, you know, on my run, just more energy. It's like, honestly, where I've noticed I didn't really fight it. I was like, okay, you know, because I run every day almost, and I hate it. And I hate it.
Yeah.
But I love the way I feel when I'm done with it.
Yeah.
But like I could sit there and stare at my shoes for like an hour, right? I pull my running shoes out, I have my running gear on, and I'll just stare at those shoes.
Yeah.
And it's like it's a battle to get those shoes on.
Sure.
And like the last 2 days, it's been like, no, just put my shoes on. Let's go get this done, right? And I don't, you know, I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just because I had better sleep. Maybe who knows? But it's like I know that fight wasn't as hard in the last 2 days.
Yay! Yeah.
The placebo we snuck in.
Right,
Yeah. But sleep's huge. I've worked with sleep, you know, throughout as a mental health therapist. People would come in with insomnia. They weren't sleeping, anxiety, stress, you name it, life situations. Even working a lot with new moms, you know, oftentimes, you know, you're not sleeping, right? And so I've told people, you know, sleep deprivation is a form of torture.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's what they use to torture people.
Sure.
So a lot of us are walking around tortured because we're not getting good sleep, any sleep. The sleep that we are getting is still making us stare at our shoes and not want to motivate ourselves, right? So within the system, that is the number one thing that we hear about is that people sleep. We also get the comment of, well, there's no way I can just come in there for 2 hours and not do anything. And we say, well, you're probably going to fall asleep. No, not me. I will never fall asleep, never,
Right.
you know, like 5 minutes later. So, you know, just getting that rest and reset for your body and getting that good, healthy sleep is sometimes just enough in the field. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, our brains are chemical factories, right? And it's like if we don't give them the proper rest, we can't get rid of the chemicals that we need to. Our bodies are in stress levels. We're producing more cortisol. We're living in
PTSD.
Right, in fear.
Yeah. And, you know, sometimes people think PTSD is just if you've went to war or you saw, you know, sort of one traumatic situation. But most Americans that I have been experienced, in my experience, are walking around with chronic PTSD.
Sure. There's a scale.
Yes,
there's
absolutely.
a scale, right?
Yes.
Of course, the high end of that scale is somebody who's coming back from Afghanistan and seeing the worst of the worst, right? But like there's a scale for PTSD.
Yeah.
And it's like I didn't understand that, you know, and, you know, I shared on, you know, I believe, you know, so I have these just, I guess they're non-negotiables, just things that I do for my wellness. And talking to a therapist regularly is something I do.
Good.
You know, and I didn't understand, and I've been in therapy for almost 7 years now, that as a 12-year-old boy, watching my mom go through chemotherapy and radiation and a 12-year-old seeing their mom lose her hair and get sick and – you know, the real question is my mom has cancer or what, like, is she going to die? Yeah. You know, I wasn't capable of like, oh, I wonder if my mom's going to die. But in the back of my mind, that was for sure running.
Right.
And that dealing with that, you know, I didn't have the tools or the capacity to understand those thoughts and understand the feelings.
Right.
That is PTSD. That is a 12-year-old boy watching their mom die. That is trauma.
Traumatic.
Look, she got through it on the other side of cancer, but that didn't erase the unknown. And so it's like there's levels of PTSD and there's levels of these stresses that you know we shouldn't dismiss. And you know, a lot of times we just don't have the proper tools to handle them and manage them. So what happens is this is going down here. Right. I'm gonna compartmentalize this one. Right. And it's like until I start pulling that stuff out and sifting through it and looking at it and taking the negative power away from it. Right. I can't get well.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like this helps you bring that stuff out.
It does. It does. We often have conversations in the field with we say friends of the club, we say clients, but also their friends, you know, on a lot of levels because they do open up. One thing we have noticed is people want to talk about what brings them in. People want to talk about their life experiences, and we are very open to that. We are very individualized with the majority of our clients. We know their stories. We know their kids, their grandkids. because there is that element of human connection that is essential as well, because exactly what you're saying, people have all this stuff inside of them and they don't talk about it, right? And because after, post-COVID, we've all been kind of, shut away, right? It was sort of encouraged for a long time to not even connect with others. You have masks on, 6 feet from each other, We're kind of learning how to reconnect with each other again. And we've just been a little microcosm of that, at Harmonic Health Club, just kind of showing people how to reconnect again with others, but also with yourself. And for you to share your story, Jake, as you have on this podcast, I just encourage more people to start doing that, because at 12, I would assume that you started learning what it meant to be mortal.
Sure. Yeah.
At 12, you really kind of embrace immortality. You're young and you're going to live forever. And that's kind of part of the fun of getting into your teen years and your early 20s. So you can make a lot of stupid decisions.
I had plenty of those.
I'm immortal, But at a really young age, you learned about mortality. Yeah. And that's the conversation that we don't always like to talk about. We are mortal on, our bodies, our physical bodies, but our souls are immortal.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I guess I kind of want to hit on just maybe some testimonials, some stuff that you guys have seen. I'm sure you guys have seen a whole. What's beautiful to me when I look at what you guys have built over there in like both of your capacities of you have a background in health coaching and the physical side of getting well, and this for sure helps do that, and then the mental aspect, the emotional, capacity to heal, right? And like both of those are so vital where we started talking about the balance,
right?
And seeing both you guys work and balance that, the masculinity side and the feminine side. And it's like that balance of providing both of those at your guys' health club. Maybe just share a story or two about what you have seen through some of your friends that have come in.
Absolutely. Oh gosh, who do we even? I mean, the first one actually that comes in just because we're on this level is my dad. And my dad, Vietnam veteran, definitely struggled with some PTSD, but also as he's getting older, his body's breaking down. Just kind of some knees, diabetes. Just all kinds of stuff. Snoring, I think, was the big one too. He was not getting sleep. And he came in, did an overnight with us for a while, and then did an overnight and then a little bit more hours after that with the sound and everything that we did. It changed his life. I actually just talked to him today. Just the happiness that he feels. He doesn't snore as much. He stopped drinking. That was huge. It still makes me emotional.
I'd love to add a little
he's gotten sober
about this
awesome.
This session because I knew that having Mr. Wilch come in,
he is a force. He is a giant force.
And so. When he arrived, I think they came over to the house for a while before, and
had some barbecue.
I'm kind of sizing him up, and I knew enough that there was plenty to both work on, or just hopefully assist him, and maybe if he could let some however it would serve him the best. And I knew that, some of the sounds around the gong, that it would be very difficult for that not to have some level of a familiarity. And, it's like I read, I kind of researched that a little bit. And what I learned was that the best method of action on this is to just cut loose, because the sound moves in a way where you can't block it or tense up. And so when we were done with the program, we were kind of holding our breath, waiting to see what happened. He opens his eyes and grins from ear to ear. And we were like, wow, that's a
hi, Dad.
And he said,
talk about a transition.
I think you asked him about it, and he said. Something along the lines of, well, I had to go back to the jungle. And we were like kind of paused, and he said, but it was different. He said, this time it was beautiful. And I mean, it just gave me chills, and it to be able to help someone in that situation. He's dealt with that for a very long time,
Very long
most
time.
of his life, and to be able to participate and see how impactful that was for him, really gave me a lot of confidence to just really say full steam ahead. So the next morning, we go.
It keeps going.
Yeah. So before the session, he's in our kitchen and he's just not comfortable in his body. His knees are shot.
Can't get
he probably
up. Can't
should have
walk
had
hardly.
surgery. He's got and I'm going, man, he's hurt unit. The next morning, he went to grab a cup of coffee at the convenience store right there, and he says, I walked up the steps one leg at a time, just normal. He says, I haven't done that in years. I did it without even thinking about it. And so once again, to kind of get into his body enough to where he's not thinking about maybe having to, kind of protect his knee or whatever, it's like, wow, all right, well, we're 2 for 2 there. And then he mentioned a few other things, the sleep and all of that. And it's like, wow, that's when was the last time you had one session and, had noticeable, substantial improvement to, a complete elimination of the problem in one night.
And we've seen that across the board.
Yeah.
We can start with him because that's really when I knew that it worked for somebody like my dad, who was skeptical, like,
Sure.
daughter, what are you into now?
Right. Willing to try.
Of course. Well, he trusts me.
Right.
He knows I'm an expert in my field. And so, and obviously knows Justin as well. And so when he decided to do that, he said, I trust you. And he came in, and it's been incredible ever since. So for somebody who, yes, I trust you, daughter, and also, okay, this is cute,
Sure.
to have such a huge life-changing experience, if I know it can work for my dad, I know it can work for anyone.
Right, and it just gives you confidence.
Of course.
One, that's like, it's evidence, like this works, and two, it's like, I'm helping someone I love.
Of course.
Right? And so it's like what a great space to build on. Right?
That's why we love the family sessions. So when we've had family members come in with a group intention, and we've had this many times, the power of the group in the field, it's
Palpable.
indescribable. I was going to say palpable, and I was like, I don't even have a word for it other than it is exactly what we are meant to do as a loving group of people.
Sure.
And the results are whatever they're supposed to be, right? We've had some where people have gotten, their millivolts up and they've had longer life. And we've also had experiences where they were able to talk about things that they never got to talk about before. They were able to connect with each other in a way that they had never done before. And sometimes that can also allow somebody to finally release and transition.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And you've probably seen that in hospice.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, people will hold on,
Right.
for reasons that, they shouldn't still be alive,
Right.
but they're holding on and until they get like, hey, it's okay.
Right.
Hey, it's okay. And that's a beautiful thing to experience. Maybe kind of start to land this plane, kind of like from what I'm feeling and seeing and loving to get to know both of you. Like there's a real purpose here.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not like, hey, look, we're doing this for a living, right? But it's more like we went away from what we were doing for a living to live life and help others. And, that's for me, that's the mission statement. It's I, for so long, only worried about Jake. And then once I understood it's not all about Jake, that's when my life started getting really big. Right. And so it's like, I just kind of sense and I see that there's a bigger purpose, and there's, you guys went away from what you were, I don't want to say stuck doing, but not filling your cup up, right? You're just, so many of us, get stuck in the 9 to 5, and look, for some people, that's what they need, and that's right where you should be. But what you guys have been able to do is, find value and purpose, and then being able to manifest it, and now we see it. I can go there and see it.
Yeah.
And so, maybe kind of just share what that's like, and what this has been as we approach the 1 year.
Yeah. So I think one of the coolest things is to be able to work with one modality, and then of course we have the metaforms, enhancements, with sacred geometry. We have the sound, which, by the way, I don't think there's anybody else doing it quite like that. I think that we've kind of really put our own signature on using all of those with consistency. And what we found is that we are literally seeing improvement across all therapeutic areas. And while we're not making claims on any of that, if people, there's a magic number about 10 to 12 hours. That'd be like 5 to 6 sessions. And the centers have been open long enough that if people will, if they are, maybe just have some goals for health and fitness. Maybe it's mental health. Maybe they would just like to try something that's different and cool in the wellness category. There's nothing to lose.
Right.
And to be able to see such a high percentage of success in this type of a field, I guess you would say, where it's not an exact science, and we're all different. We all have our own genetic makeup, but to see such a big response, eventually, this is going to help so many people, and we just are honored to be able to be the ones tapped to bring it to Kansas City, and we didn't do it to keep it a secret. We did it to,
and we couldn't do anything else. I mean, it's
this
truly
point,
a calling. This kind of work,
I believe it.
It is. If I decided tomorrow to be an accountant, I'd get veered right back into this. I mean, it's just
right.
It is our calling, Justin and I, that we are here to help people. It's in any capacity, but now the two of us, between our combined experience, life and educational, we have now created a center that truly is mind, body, spirit, ethereal, all of it. And we're really proud of that. And it's not like anything else anyone's doing. So there is a lot of newness to that, I suppose. Hard to always explain, but it's working.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's working very well.
And I'm just I'm so happy to provide the platform to share this because I experienced it myself. It's something that I'm going to add to my repertoire.
Beautiful.
It's something that I found benefit from just sitting there for 2 hours. So it's like, and also, look, life is about trial and error, right? And if you've tried everything, then you haven't tried everything.
Right.
Exactly,
But how many times do we say,
well said.
I've tried everything? Well, no, you haven't.
Right.
You haven't. And what I see in what you guys are doing and what I, witnessed firsthand is that there's hope, right?
Yes.
And like, if you open that, you crack that door to a hopefulness, then it's like just hearing that story about your father,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like you find hope, and then you turn that hope into faith. Like, I hope this works. And then the faith starts to come in and you feel different. And you're like, well, I believe this might be working, the hope, faith, belief. And then once you start living your life, then you're like, I know this works.
Yes.
Right? So you go from hope to knowledge, right? And it's like I can just, from hearing your stories and sharing some time with you guys, that this can provide you hope with faith, belief, and then knowledge that it works. And then, what you do with it from there is, you live your life. And then, like, that's the thing. It's like, for me, it's you can't get this wrong because you're never done, right? You're never done.
Yeah.
And since you're never done, you can't get it wrong.
Right.
Right. So it's just like we just keep trying something new and keep taking what works and adding to it and getting rid of what doesn't work. And so I'm just so blessed to share some space with you and connect. And I look forward to, having you guys on again down the road.
Yes, we'd love that.
Likewise, we'd love to.
Any last words, open forum for either one of you?
Any famous last words? I'm just grateful. I think grateful is the word, that it's getting out there, and that's all we want. We just want this to be out there. We want as many people as can come in and experience it. And so I just feel grateful to do this work that we're blessed to do. And also, it's a lot of fucking fun.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. It's fun to laugh
is.
with people and to introduce them to new things and to see that excitement again. You know, so those would be my.
I knew it was special as soon as I walked in the door and met you, and a smiling face and just welcoming spirit. And it's like, you know, so harmonichealthclub.com.
Yeah.
And social media.
We're on Instagram.
Yeah.
You know what we have found is that give us a call. You know, if you know, Harmonic Health Club, harmonichealthclub.com. And any questions after you peruse through the site, you know, just give us a call. We can kind of walk you through what a session's like and take good care of you.
And I'll put the website and the address and the phone number in the show notes.
Great.
So, you know, go down below and find these guys. They're doing great work out in Shawnee,
and there is hope.
Thanks,
you know,
Jake.
if you're dealing with a situation where you know, maybe you've been dealing with it for a while, or maybe it's something that just came out of nowhere, and it's puzzling, and no one can quite figure it out. Give us a chance. You know, come see us for a couple sessions and see if maybe we might be able to help.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming
you.
on.
Thank you.
Loved having you guys on, and
All right.
we'll do it again. And I like to close with, you know, when you change your thinking, you change your life.
Absolutely.
All right. Good night now.